Hey guys, it's Julia here, and I'm back with another video. I don't know when you guys will be seeing this because I'm recording a lot of videos that I can edit later again, and I'm still editing them. So anyway, this is a computer that I have received just like a few days ago to work on, and it is an HP computer, as you can see. It is HP Pavilion. I don't know the exact model of it, but I'm going to be working on it. I'll show you guys more of it in this video. This came from my dad's friend, and they thought they had a virus, but I actually just ran a scan with ESET, and it says it found one, but it's not saying what it was, but I saw it earlier, and it was a potentially unwanted program. It wasn't actually a virus. So I'm certain that the computer does not have a virus, and the reason they thought they had a virus was because they got one of those, fake tech support scam pop-ups on a website saying that, oh, your computer has a virus, you need to call Microsoft, but it's really just a scam phone number to try and, gain access to your computer and all that. It wasn't actually a virus, it was just trying to scare. So this computer, I've determined, does not have any virus on it. It's completely fine. But you're probably wondering, why do I still have it then if there's no virus? Well, let's just say that I found out it has a 1 terabyte hard drive, and they decided to get an SSD for it. So this is an 870 EVO 250 gig SSD. Now, yes, this isn't a lot of storage, but I checked, they're only using like 100 gigs on this computer, and it has a terabyte hard drive in it. So they're not even really using the storage. There isn't a whole lot of files on here, and yeah. So I'm going to be upgrading it to an SSD because I feel nowadays hard drives just are not good as main OS drives. SSDs are the way to go nowadays with computers. And you'll see that any newer computer nowadays mostly has SSDs and not hard drives. So I'm going to be putting this SSD into the computer, but I'm also probably going to upgrade the RAM as well because I have a little bit extra. I might throw another stick in it because I have so much RAM I don't know what to do with, and they only have 4 gigs of RAM. I feel like they should have at least 8, and I think I'll go with 8 gigs because they mainly just browse the web, and I feel like 8 is the bare minimum nowadays. And with Windows eating so much RAM, because this does have Windows 10 on it, so not saying that it eats RAM because it really, it can, but generally, when it knows it has more RAM, it actually uses more, which is kind of funny, but it's still usable with 4, but I thought, why not, give them a nice upgrade. I don't know how much longer they're going to use this computer for, probably a while. So, let's just see if there's any way I can get this to show the detection again. But anyways, it was a potentially unwanted program. It's not anything I would worry about. Plus, I've decided I am gonna make an image backup of this current drive, because you should make an image backup before you work on a computer mostly. And also the other reason is because, well, I'm gonna end up reinstalling it because I probably am gonna put like LTSC on here, and you're probably wondering, why not just normal Windows? Windows 10 ends support in 2 years, and I know for a fact they're going to have this computer longer than 2 years. And yes, technically I could bypass 11 requirements, but I really don't want to do that for a computer I'm working on for someone, because, yeah, I don't want to do that. I forgot the exact specs of this computer, actually, so we're going to find out, I guess, when I boot it back up, but alright guys, I'm back. I had to go do something, but anyways, I want to replace the hard drive with an SSD. But first, I want to make an image backup of the hard drive because I actually plan to leave both the hard drive and SSD in here, and I can just have the backup of it on that hard drive along with any other stuff they want to keep on it. So if something goes wrong or they're missing something, we have an exact image copy of their old Windows install, and it's always good to do that too because you never know if we need to use it or if there was something on there they need. So we're gonna do that first, and after we make a backup of that drive, what I'll probably do is I will, get Windows on the other drive. Like, I'll unplug the hard drive, get Windows on the other one, plug the hard drive back in, and copy the files from the drives. So, like, all their, files from, documents, pictures, and all those folders. And they didn't really have a lot of software on here. So what I'll probably do is I'll end up switching to my capture card because I have my capture card hooked up right now to see the screen. So I'll probably switch to my capture card and start recording on there from now on. But before I do that, I just want to show you the actual computer first. Because, you know, why not? It doesn't have like very many ports back here, which is very surprising. Like, I feel like it's just very limited on what it has. And I know it's kind of difficult to see, but it is kind of dark. But I just feel like there's not much back here. There's not a lot to this computer. It's very basic. It's a very basic computer, and there's my vent toy being plugged in right now, because, yeah, but those are USB 3 ports, because you can see the blue, and this one has the blue as well. But this computer is something interesting, so yeah. I should have used my tripod over there right now, but because I wanted to show both the screen and the computer, I decided to just not use the capture card for this portion. But when I'm swapping the SSD out, I might end up obviously using my tripod, so. Okay guys, so I'm recording. I'm gonna make a backup of this. I booted to a Windows PE. We're not gonna do a clone, we're gonna do an image. So I think that's what it is. Yeah, it's gonna save as an image file. So, destination. We're gonna save it to this drive. I should probably make a folder. We're gonna open up this drive. Image backups. HDD backup. 1 terabyte. Because this is their 1 terabyte drive. Did it put an extra space? No, it didn't. So we're going to make a backup, and it's going to save to this location. And we're going to just back up the entire thing. So it's going to save it to that folder, and it's going to back up these partitions. So here we go. So now we are backing up this drive before we do anything, and I've decided to back it up to one of my externals that I have, which has not a lot of space free because I believe it has another image backup that I haven't deleted. That needs to probably get deleted to get my space back. But I've just kept it because I haven't really needed this storage. Uh-oh. What's that mean? Hold on. Well, we got the drive here, but what does this mean? Unable to... Oh, you know what? I know the problem. We need to unmount it. Do we have disk management? I swear. So... would this do it? Would this be able to see it? Excuse me? Why are you not letting me offline it? This is really being stupid. It's complaining about this recovery. So I and J, I think, need to be unmounted. I'm hearing a very unhappy drive. You know, let's actually check the health. Is Crystal disk info on here? Okay, the drive's good. And my drive is also good. So why am I hearing like these weird clicking noises? I and J, I'm gonna try unmounting them. They're gone. Alright. That might help us. Actually, I should probably close that in case it, like, thinks something's in use. I don't like that sound at all. It's really scaring me. HP backup. Should I call it HP backup instead? HP HDD maybe. That's probably a better name. Destination. Don't you dare complain about I again. I literally unmounted it. Only C is mounted. Okay, yeah, it's working now. I might have to unmount C though. No, I don't, it looks like. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is working now, so thank God. But that was about to make me mad because it wasn't wanting to work. But it looks like I fixed it by unmounting them. So I'm gonna let this save. It's gonna take, it says like 24 minutes. But then it says 18 minutes. Because there's like 2 bars. There's current progress and overall. So that's probably why. So right now I'm just making an image on my drive, but after I wipe the hard drive and all that, and I reinstall Windows to the SSD, I will copy over the image backup just straight to the hard drive. And it's going to be like a data drive that's just going to be in there, and it's going to have this backup on it. And I'm going to move it off mine, so that way they have the backup on another drive. So that's what I plan to do. Anyways, I'm going to let this do its thing, and I will come back when it's done. Okay guys, so the backup finished, and we finally have our backup, so that's good. That's a pretty good read and write speed as well. So, we did make our backup, so I can go check for it. Oh yeah, I know I'm running out of storage, that's fine though. So, that's our backup right there. Oh boy, yeah, it doesn't even recognize it, which is kind of funny, probably because I don't have it doesn't like have Macrum installed in, you know, the way where the icon will show. Hopefully that's the reason. I think this is fine, and it's 83 gigs. It's not too bad. Yeah, it doesn't know the application. That's why it's like that. So I guess the way it was installed doesn't show it. But we got our backup. So I'll be throwing this on the hard drive and all that. I think that means I'm safe to wipe the hard drive, but before I do, I'm actually going to make a copy of the files, or no, I'm going to actually unplug the hard drive, plug the SSD, and install Windows, have both plugged in, and then copy the files, and then erase the hard drive. The reason I'm doing it that way is that way I don't need to, like, somehow mount this image and, you know, move the files. I was curious on the installation date on the computer. I have a file I'm going to copy over. I can close this. That can use to check the installation date, because, you know, when you do an upgrade, it just, you know, resets the date, and there wasn't really a way to check what the actual installation date was. So, yeah, I'm kind of curious. Excuse me? I don't know what the hell that was, but we got our file there. So, now that we made the image backup, I can actually eject this, because this is the drive that it's on. And then I can reboot. I'll probably unplug my Ventoy. I'm pretty sure this install does not have any viruses on it. I don't see any sign of it. There's barely any software on here either. Like, it's very, you know, stock. The hard drive is not failing though, so that's good. I plan to still leave it in here so I can store the image backup on it and any other, you know, backups that they want to put on the computer, you know, to back up stuff from the SSD to the hard drive, just because it's always good to have backups, and they don't have a whole lot of data, so it's a pretty stock looking installation of Windows. There's not many programs on here. I was surprised. So if I open up our control panel, I'm just gonna wait for this to load. I actually have not showed you guys the specs yet. I kind of forgot what they were. I know it had 4 gigs of RAM though. So you could see there is not much on here. It's very, you know, empty. based on this, it's looking like, so our oldest program says March 31st, 2020. That might be the installation date, but I'm not entirely sure. But I do have something to check the installation date, but that's the oldest program I can see here. But like I said, I'm not sure if that's actually the date. We might not actually see it then. This might just show the upgrade date. Yeah, see, that just shows the upgrade date, but I don't know what the actual installation date is. Like, I actually don't know what the real installation date, because that's just the upgrade date. I'm guessing that March 31st is probably the installation date. But you guys could see that this is the specs of the computer. i3, 4th gen, 4 gigs of RAM. It's Windows 10 Pro 22H2. I believe that's the latest, actually. The latest update as of right now, I think, because I think mine's on the same thing. .3086, I think I have that too. So I think this is up to date. I'm pretty sure. But I do want to upgrade the RAM, because the RAM in this computer is not that great. I want to do the upgrade before I reinstall it. Oh yeah, this is the hard drive. And you can see hard drives just, I mean, it's not that it's not horribly slow, but we're already using a lot, like almost all the RAM, like 59% of it. And with a browser, that's going to go up. So yeah, and you can see it's DDR3. And I have some DDR3 sticks laying around. Wow, 1600, that's not even that fast either for DDR3. Then again, this is an older system, but it is 4th gen, so I guess, you know, it makes sense to have DDR3 because it's a 4th gen system. And I believe my NV that has 4th gen is DDR3 as well, so it makes sense to have that. So I could tell you this is definitely not the stock installation. It looks like it has been wiped at some point, because when I open disk management, you're not going to see any like recovery partitions or anything like that. So someone previously worked on this and wiped the hard drive completely from the looks of it back in 2020. And yeah, it's definitely gotten wiped at some point. Probably got worked on previously. It might have actually been me that worked on it, I don't entirely remember. But we do have our support assistant on here too. I don't know what this is. What is this? Oh, it's for a printer. They can reinstall their printer driver. But there is not much on here. Like, this is a pretty stock installation of Windows. This is just me, or is this OneDrive icon like old, or did they change it? There's stuff pinned here, like disk cleanup, disk defrag. This definitely looks like something I did, actually, because I think I might have worked on this before and forgot. Because this computer does look familiar. So, kind of funny. But what I'm going to do, yeah, Windows security icon even, and cleanup, and defrag, and these icons here. So, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start upgrading the parts. I might record this, I might not, or I might record after and show what I did. But I'm going to start working on that now. So I'm just going to shut the computer down. Oh yeah, before I do, I did try and get the installation date, because you could see this right here. The stuff in here is from the old installation, which it looks like it was 1903, or no, 1909 actually, because 18363. And there's an installation date in here. You know, I might as well actually just do that right now, because I'm going to reinstall it anyway, and I already made a backup, so it's not like I'm harming anything at all by doing this, because I'm wiping this hard drive anyway. But if I copy over the installation date, maybe this is a way to restore your installation date even after you deleted Windows.old, so that's actually pretty cool. So the way to do it because I don't like how Windows always resets your installation date. So this is where it stores your installation information. So you guys can see right now, oh, I think it typed that I, so I'm gonna remove that. Right here, the installation date, that's actually the upgrade date, because when you do a feature update, it resets this date completely. So what we need to do in this case, this computer is actually not too slow for being on a hard drive. So we got our installation date, 9/25/2020, it says 8/12, but that's, oh, it doesn't have the 0x, it'll probably put it though. So if I paste that date in this time, you guys will see what happens. I was correct. Well, close enough. March 30th. Yeah, HP Local Machine system setup. And then you'll see Source OS updated on. And you find the oldest one. And you can grab the installation date and stuff. You'll see it changed back to the actual real date of the installed Windows. So that's just a tip right there. Pretty cool. So we actually got the real date. I could probably look back at my screenshots at this date and see if it was me that reinstalled it. So I opened up the computer and this is how dirty it is. What in the world? There's the hard drive. Hopefully I have enough like cables to hook up 2 drives in here. This is horrible. I'm gonna be having to take this outside. Well, at least I have compressed air, but I'm taking this outside and cleaning it. Alright guys, so I cleaned out the computer. It looks much better. This is the RAM that was in it. As you can see, SK Hynix 4 gigs PC3L. That's perfect because the RAM I had is the exact same. So I have 2 sticks of it, and that's perfect. It has 2 slots, so I can upgrade this to 8 gigs of RAM very easily. And I also grabbed another SATA cable because there's another SATA port up there, which I'll show you guys. But I need to get this stick of RAM back in the computer again. I just wanted to take it out to see what kind of RAM it was. And I have figured that out. So it is a little bit difficult, I will say, because this computer, yeah, it's a bit difficult because it's, you know, the angle and stuff. Alright guys, so I put in the extra stick of RAM. I also plugged in the SATA cable because, I don't know if you guys can see, but you guys could see there is an extra port up here. It's kind of hard to see from the angle. I'll show it in a minute, but let me zoom this out. This is the SSD. I just want to cover up like the serial number and stuff, but it's an 870 EVO 250 gig. So I plugged in our SATA cable, which I'm going to connect to the drive right now. There's that. And there is another power cable back here. Right here. So I do want to clean up the dirt on the cables first though. Okay, so I got this drive plugged in. I unplugged the hard drive for now. I plugged that in and put it here for now. I'm gonna put the side panel back on, install Windows on the SSD. After that's all said and done, I'll end up plugging the hard drive in to be able to copy the files back. I might boot a PE and do it from that instead, and then erase the drive after I do it. And the reason I want to do that is just, you know, I'd rather just do it that way so it doesn't try and, you know, boot the hard drive, although I don't think it will, but I'd rather just copy it back in a PE. So anyways, I'm going to get the side panel back on and I'm going to put it back inside, but the system does look a lot cleaner. You could see that there's actually not much back there, like I was saying before. I know it was hard to see before because I was inside, but now you should have a better view of the system. There is a PCIe slot, but no actual, you know, PCIe devices in the computer. So technically, if the guy wanted to put a GPU or something in it, he probably could, but they just browse the internet, so I think they don't really necessarily need it. Anyways, I'm going to bring this back inside. Hopefully the SATA cable works. I just grabbed it out of my drawer, but I'm sure it works, because, you know, it's kind of rare to see a bad SATA cable, although with the whole server situation, I don't think it was from that server, though. I'm pretty sure that was the blue cable, which I decided not to use. Plus, that one was a very long cable, and we don't need a long cable, so I grabbed my short cable. Anyways, bringing this back inside. Alright guys, I have returned. I have the 8 gigs of RAM in, the SSD in, and the hard drive unplugged. So let's just boot the computer to see what happens. Make sure everything works. I know it's not going to have an OS or anything, but that's completely fine. Oh, it boots straight to Ventoy, probably because there's no OS detected. So I'm going to install LTSC. And the reason is because that way I'm able to have longer support and all that stuff. Hopefully the drive is detected. So just to be sure, alright, our disk is detected, so that's good. And the hard drive is not, because obviously I disconnected that. So we're going to go ahead and install LTSC on here. I probably should have done IoT, but I can convert it. So I'm going to start installing Windows, and it looks like the drive's detected, so the SATA cable works and everything, and it probably detects all the RAM. I probably should have checked that, but we could check it afterwards. It's kind of too late now. That is installing extremely fast. You know, let's actually go to the BIOS when this is done, because I definitely want to see if it detected everything. I'm glad I also cleaned out the computer because I feel like it runs a lot cooler, it sounds cooler, there's not a ton of dirt in the fans anymore, clogging everything up. It's all been cleaned out. I don't think this computer has ever been cleaned out in the 10 years they've had it. Because I think they got this computer back in like 2014 or something, and this computer is, yeah, it's almost 10 years old. That'd be 9 years old because it's 2023. It's stuck at 97. That's not encouraging. Oh, there we go. You're going to see Windows just installs very quickly. So we're actually going to go straight to the BIOS, which is F10. So let's just spam F10. There we go. System information. Yes, it is detecting our 8 gigs of RAM. So we are good. Yeah, born on date. It's actually 2015, it looks like. Interesting. But the BIOS is definitely an older BIOS, but I'm not too worried about it. Ignore changes and exit. I probably will also run a mem test just to be sure that the RAM is fine, because it never hurts to do that. But we now have 8 gigs of RAM and a 250 gig SSD, so this computer should run fairly quickly now. Because I just feel like 4 gigs is just not enough anymore. Windows uses a lot of RAM, and I feel like for the bare minimum, 8 gigs. But that's only if you're like web browsing and stuff. If you're like playing a ton of games and having a ton of things open, then you need at least like 12 or 16. So that's my theory and thought on that. But for someone that's just going to web browse, 8 gigs is perfectly fine. I mean, even 4 gigs is working. It can work, but it'd be a much better experience with 8. So that's why I decided, why not upgrade them to 8 gigs as well? And I am getting paid to fix this, so might as well, you know, make it the best for them. So just a moment, we are loading to the setup. This is actually going really fast. We are going to skip the network setup right now. No password. I didn't have a password before. I always turn all that off. And we have gotten to a desktop. So I'll go to the system properties. You can see we got our specs, our new installation date. I'm going to rename the computer to what it was named before. Start later. Yeah, we don't have activation, unfortunately, but I can worry about that later, as I can get a key for it and activate it. So we should always update first. I probably will end the video here soon because I'm just going to be, you know, copying their stuff back and all that soon. But on a clean install, I will run updates. So we plug in the internet, right? It doesn't really matter what I click. It's on an isolated network at the moment. Because any computers that are not mine that I work on, I connect to an isolated network. You never know if they're going to have, you know, some kind of virus or something. I know for a fact this doesn't because it's a clean install, but I just still connected it to that network anyway. So we'll be able to check for updates and install updates. But like I said, one thing I really like about LTSC is how there isn't a lot of bloatware. And it has support longer, which I am going to upgrade this to IoT because that's going to give us even longer support because it's like 2031 for IoT and something like that. Or it might even be longer than that. I don't even remember. I think it might have been around that, unless it's regular LTSC. I think regular LTSC was 2029 though. I would need to look it up and verify the dates. I'll probably put it up on screen. But you guys can see that I am currently updating the system. I'm also getting all the drivers. Now, I've noticed one thing about Windows Update is generally it will want to reboot before it's done, and I don't know why Microsoft has not fixed that or if they intentionally did that. But I always wait till they're all pending restart or if there's an error. Because if there's an error, I don't bother clicking retry because it just makes it recheck and glitches it out. I'll usually just wait till they're all either pending restart or show an error, then I'll reboot and I'll check again. Because generally the error means that Windows installed the driver before Windows Update did, and that tends to happen a lot when I'm working on systems. Or some will just say, oh, other updates are in progress, and it would just do that. Like, I've had that happen too, because it likes to glitch out sometimes. But if I go here, I go to performance. We got our 8 gigs of DDR3 now, which is nice. And we got our new SSD. I will install Samsung Magician as well, because, you know, I want to be able to have that software on here to monitor the SSD and just to have it because, you know, it's a Samsung SSD, so I'm going to install the software for it too. So as you can see, some of those updates failed with an error, and that's just because Windows got the driver before Windows Update, because you saw it already installed the graphics driver, but then Windows Update was trying to install the graphics driver too, so that is why it failed. I believe it's the same one. Hold on. Yeah, it's the same driver, which 2018, that's kind of old. I might download a newer driver. Not like it's gonna matter much though. Alright, so it has finished updating. You can see we're still missing some drivers, so it's because of these optional updates, but I'm going to do them after I reboot the computer, because for some reason Windows does not get all the drivers on a clean install. You have to actually click that View Optional Updates button and install all the updates there. I'm not really sure why that's the case, but it is the case for whatever reason. So yeah, it's kind of strange. I really don't know. Windows has been doing that recently. It never did that in the past, but now it's classifying a lot of the driver updates as optional, which is the reason why it doesn't get all the drivers anymore. I remember back then it always would, but nowadays it just seems to not be the case. Alright guys, so the computer came back on, so we're gonna go back to settings, update security, and we're going to click this View Optional Updates button. Now I'm going to open Device Manager real quick just to show this. So I'm going to move this over here. It doesn't really matter if I expand it or not, but I'm going to show that these two drivers, which if I try and like update it, it just doesn't work. But it says you can search on Windows Update. But if I go here, you can see there's a ton of driver updates showing. And some of these are updates, but some of these are these missing drivers. So these drivers that don't exist, like this PCI driver and this SM bus controller, they're not installed. They're showing under here. So I'm just going to check all of the drivers that are listed, and this should get rid of those missing drivers. So once I do this, you'll see them disappear. Or just not download at all for some reason, because it's literally not even downloading. Well, there it goes. It was just taking its sweet time. But you can see Device Manager is flashing because it's updating the drivers. Would you look at that? It looks like it installed something. Because this opened. And now it's flashing constantly. Now it's installing the LAN driver. And you can see they're all pending restart, and there's now no more missing devices showing. It's not letting me right click, so let me just do this to open Task Manager. I don't know what it was doing. It was freaking out because I didn't even click on that. But see if it's actually doing anything. Windows what? Windows Management something. I don't know what it's doing. I was just checking to see if it was maybe still installing the driver, because sometimes. And settings really likes to glitch out. Like, I'm clicking update and security and it's just not opening. Sometimes you need to close and reopen it, because it just likes to be stubborn. There we go. So now I'll reopen it. I'll reboot, and I'll check for more updates afterwards, but I think we should be up to date, but I always check a couple times because you never know, since some updates require other updates. Alright, so we're back up and running. I'm going back to update and security, and I'm gonna check again and see if we're up to date. We might be up to date, actually. I know it's just a couple Defender updates, that's it. So we're pretty much up to date at this point. So it's up to date. Check one more time to be sure, but it should say up to date. And we can do a WinVer to confirm that if it is newer. So yeah, we're running 21H2 OS build 19044.3086. That's the latest as of June 21st, 2023, but you guys will probably be seeing this later, and I'm sure this will already be out of date by the time you're seeing this video. But we are on LTSC, which is still supported for a while. And yes, even though it's 21H2 and not 22H2, there really isn't a difference between the two other than, like, support, I feel like. Because I just don't think 22H2 added much at all, if anything. Alright guys, so I'm back. I did a few things. I got Samsung Magician installed, which if I open it, we're all good. I did put the other drive back in it as well, but you could see that this is our Samsung drive. It shows up, and it's all up to date. All the firmware was up to date already. But if I open up Explore, you can see that the hard drive shows up as well. So what I'm going to do is transfer the data off of this hard drive to the SSD, and then I could be able to erase the hard drive and, you know, move the backup to it. So it is here. Everything's good, so that's great. And the system does work. So I'm really glad about that. But I just wanted to say what I've done so far. And the system's doing well. It boots a lot faster. It runs a lot better. I feel like it probably runs cooler too, with all that dust being cleaned out of it. So we basically brought some new life to this system, and it can probably be used for a while. So for their needs, I think this system will last them a good while until the hardware just dies. But if it does, they still have the hard drive and SSD, so they can always move that to another system if they want. Or they can always turn the hard drive into an external hard drive if they get like an enclosure for it. So that way they could keep their backups and stuff, like if something happens to the system. Alright guys, so I'm back. I made it look pretty much identical to how it looked previously. I copied over the wallpaper because Windows has this thing called like the transcoded wallpaper, and I copied the file to get their original wallpaper back. Because obviously I don't know where the photo is, and I don't know if they have a copy of it, which, I mean, they probably do, but I just copied that back to be safe. And I also made the start menu look similar to how the other one looked, except I believe here was like mail and calendar, which I don't have installed. I don't know if they used them, but when they come over to pick it up, I'm going to ask them about that. But I made it look pretty much identical to before. I also booted back to the other OS to save their bookmarks, and I, you know, got the bookmarks over here. So now they have their bookmarks, and I made it look, you know, similar. They decided they're going to switch to Firefox, but I also have Edge here too in case, and that also has their bookmarks imported, and they both do. So that way they're able to access, you know, the websites they access and all that stuff, because that's not something I thought of before, but I went and grabbed that, and I installed like the same programs. I didn't install Chrome because I don't know if they're going to use Chrome. I'll ask them about that, but everything's the same. They're just going to have to install their printer again. I think that's the only thing they're going to have to do. All their files are back, and everything looks pretty much how it looked before for the most part. It's not completely exact, but it's close enough. So I just need to wipe the hard drive and then put the image like file on it, and maybe some other backups for them. Maybe I'll back up like their pictures folder or something to it as well, just so there's like another copy. Even though it's already in the image, they're not going to know how to access that image. So alright, so guys, I checked, everything's good. So I think we're safe to erase the hard drive, which I'm going to show you guys me doing this right now and how I do this. So we're going to open up a command prompt, and I'm going to type disk part. I open an admin CMD because that's going to be required, but if you don't, then it's just going to have you hit yes. Was disk. You could see disk 0 is the hard drive, so select disk 0 and then type clean. You can see it's gone now because it just wiped it. So now that that's wiped, I can just open up disk management. I know I can create a partition from disk part, but I'd rather just reinitialize it here in disk management. So make a new volume. I already initialized it with GPT. We're going to call it data. Keep it simple. So now we have a drive for data. So now they can store files on the hard drive and still use it. So I'm going to copy over that image backup that was on my other one. I'm gonna plug that drive in. Okay, so this is the drive backup. So I'm just going to copy this over and have that on the hard drive. You know, we want to be able to have this on the hard drive in case they ever need to restore it, and I'm going to delete it off of mine. Anyways, I'm going to wrap up the video here. I'm pretty much done at this point. Everything works. Everything's back up to running order, and their computer is ready to be used. It's got the SSD, it still has the hard drive, and I think I did a really good job at cleaning it out, also upgrading the RAM, and I hope to work on more computers in the future because I feel like I've not gotten many systems to work on, and I decided to make a video on this because it kind of reminds me of those computer adventures where I'd work on computers and stuff like that, and I just wanted to, you know, work on it. I know I didn't record everything, but I already have a lot of recordings, so I didn't want to, you know, fit everything in there. And I didn't want to, you know, show restoring their data because, you know, sensitive information and stuff like that. Hopefully there's more computers I can work on in the future because honestly, it's a lot of fun working on computers and helping people out. I enjoy doing it, so. Anyways, that'll do it. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Bye-bye for now.